Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dan and this is Stout Gaming. This week in the VBA we are in week 4 and we will be going up against the Clefables. For those of you who don't know, the VBA is a Pokemon VGC draft league. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and start looking at the matchup. So, the first thing you'll notice on my opponent's side is that all 11 Pokemon are in the Might C category. This serves for two major purposes. The first is that I have been very bad at projecting, especially the not likely to come and a few of the likely to sees the last few weeks. And the second is that Rolo, the coach of the Clefables, has made it his goal to bring the most balanced team, the most of each of the 11 Mons as possible throughout the season. So I really don't know what could come. Anything from Dynamax Cresselia and Dynamax Clefable to a Redirection Clefable next to a Dynamax Blaziken to Goggles Haunter. I've got plans for all of them, but I think any of them could happen. Now because of that, looking over at my team, I wanted a team with a lot of flexibility. And because of that, Bronzong, Tangela, and Glastrier seemed like really good brings on my team to get Trick Room up. His team is actually mid to upper mid speed pretty consistently. The only thing that he's got that's slow is the Dynamax Copperaja. So I do think my Trick Room mode is going to be very strong in this matchup. But moving on to the things that I was considering bringing, the Sun mode, as always, is a very strong consideration. It matches up well into a lot of his team. However, the main Dynamax threats that I'm scared of on his team are the Salamence and the Blaziken, and I don't necessarily know if Sun's the best into them. Goodra definitely has a shot to come this week. It is just very bulky, but most of its bulk is on the special side, unfortunately. It does match up well into a lot of his team, but the Salamence matchup and the Mamoswine matchup do scare me a little bit. Coco Thievel as a combination, always a very strong lead. They can deal with a lot of the things that this team puts out, and especially things that counter Trick Room, so they're a very strong consideration, but again, Intimidate on the Salamence does hurt the Coco a fair bit. Mantine is also a consideration. He has maxed Manectric in the past, which of course would be very bad for Mantine, but if he does go more the Mamoswine Blaziken route, which I think is a strong possibility, then Mantine is a very strong option to have, at least in Team Preview, even if I don't end up bringing it. It's not the week for Beheeyem or Frostmoth this week, unfortunately. Bronzong is just the more consistent Trick Room setter than Beheeyem, and Beheeyem doesn't offer a lot of value outside of what Bronzong offers. Frostmoth, I did briefly think about some Frostmoth sets, but again, Mamoswine often carries a physical rock move, Blaziken's physical fire move, and those two alone are enough to scare me off of Frostmoth this week. So, moving into the team, the first thing we're looking at is my Bronzong. It's a Trick Room Body Press Iron Defense set with max physical defense and heat proof. This would allow me to survive an Adamant max Flare from Blaziken holding a Life Orb and still get up Trick Room. Also, with the Shucca Berry, it survives anything Mamoswine has. It doesn't have the Mental Herb this week, so anything that could launch a Taunt into it is potentially an issue, but his Pokemon that know Taunt are Haunter, Copperaja, and Quillfish, and I don't necessarily expect any of them to be the lead. And even if they are the lead, Tangela would be the lead to help me get Trick Room up, so Goggles Haunter is the one thing that could prevent me from getting Trick Room up consistently, so that's something that I will have to play around. But Rage Powder, Sleep Powder, Protect on Tangela is pretty standard. I went with Giga Drain for the attack for longevity because I am running a very physically bulky set. He doesn't have a huge number of special attackers, and I do think, especially late game against Mamoswine, this Tangela does have a chance to have some major staying power with the Giga Drain sets. Glastrier as the Trick Room Sweeper with Heavy Slam, Icicle Crash, High Horsepower, and Protect. The spread is pretty self-explanatory, but the Life Orb on it is rather specific, because Heavy Slam, Life Orb, Glastrier guarantees the KO on a non-max Clefable, even if it is 252 HP, 252 defense, and a defense boosting nature. So this is my way to play around redirection, is to just one-shot the Clefable and then start killing everything else. The Mantine set that I have is a Mystic Water Mantine set with Hydro Pump, Air Slash, Ice Beam, and Tailwind. I could see myself going fast mode, which would include the Tangela and a Mantine likely, and setting Tailwind is always nice in fast modes, even if it's not going to be necessarily useful. The Ice Beam is to hit potential Salamences, and then the speed on it allows me to outspeed a +1 Blaziken under rain because of Swift Swim. So a +1 timid max speed Blaziken under rain because of Swift Swim. So it does let me maintain a speed advantage a turn longer than I probably should be able to against the Blaziken. The Tapu Koko set is pretty straightforward. Physical Tapu Koko with Expert Belt to help pick up the KOs on potential Clefables with Iron Head. I am running a slightly bulkier than normal set because the speed stat that I had to beat was lower on the Tapu Koko. It doesn't outspeed boosted speed Blazikens, but unless I'm able to boost my speed with max Airstream. But it does outspeed everything on his team unboosted when it's not Scarfed. And the last mon I'm bringing is Thievul. I didn't need to run any speed on Thievul this week because after Unburden triggers, the Thievul's 220 speed does outspeed a Blaziken's, a timid Blaziken at +1 speed, so I'm still able to get 2 attacks off before it can get 2 attacks off. Howl is to aid with the Koko, and then Screech is actually tech for the Clefable, because if the Clefable is running Unaware in a redirection set, my buffing my own Koko so much isn't going to be as useful as lowering the Clefable's defenses. Snarl to cover any special attackers, and then Foul Play, of course, is just a very solid attacking mood into things like Salamence or Mamoswine. Now the set is pretty interesting. This actually lets me survive a Adamant Life Orb max fighting move from a Blaziken, which most Thievul's can't survive, and I actually needed every bit of bulk to make sure that I survived that. But without any further ado, I'm going to cut away, and I will see you guys when I'm back with the battle. So, the first thing that I notice in this team comp is that he does have Haunter and Kangaskhan, which are 2 really good forms of Trick Room Denial with the Fake Out and the potential Taunt on his team, and I don't know where the goggles could be here. They could reasonably be on Blaziken, Salamence, Haunter, or Kangaskhan, really. I could even see a world where they're on the Clefable and he just tries to redirect any potential sleep pattern shenanigans, but I think that's probably the 5th most likely option. Goggles on a Haunter would actually allow him to deny Trick Room very effectively against my team. So I am nervous about leading the hard Trick Room with the Bronze Tangela given this start. So instead, I'm going to audible towards the Mantine Tangela just to see what his answer to that is, and have Trick Room ready to go in the back. So Trick Room in the back is really going to be what my main damage mode is, whereas this Mantine is sort of going to poke and prod, maybe take some shots at the Clefable, or whatever his max option that he brings is. But overall, it's not the most unexpected comp from him, but it is one that is very solid against my team. I am quite happy not to see the Mamoswine though, because that was a bit scary in prep. So he leads with the Clefable and the Blaziken, and my first thought here is that how would he deny Trick Room with this lead? It would be with a Goggles Blaziken, because Goggles Blaziken would allow him to attack into the Bronzong, and if he isn't necessarily expecting that I have Heat-Proof Bronzong with a lot of defense, that's pretty effective at denying Trick Room. So thinking that, I think Sleep Powder directly into this Clefable, and then I can 1v1 this Blaziken with Mantine. And that's sort of what I'm going to be going for in this game. So he does max the Blaziken. It is faster than my Mantine to start, which makes sense because I'm running not a incredibly fast Mantine, it's got a little bit of speed, and I expect this Blaziken to be near max speed. So getting Mantine maxed up, I feel okay with this position as long as this Sleep Powder hits. Because Mantine, even if it launches the first one into the Clefable, and it will be in the sun, I will be setting the rain, and then even after Blaziken's speed boost, I will be faster than it next turn. Clefable follows me, which is to be expected. Blaziken's going to use its Max Flare here. Tangela's going to survive this because I built it super bulky. That's a lot of damage from that Blaziken though, so I know right away that it's probably Life Orb, and I do see it take some Life Orb damage. And then I see the Clefable has the Goggles. This will affect my Game 2 strategy a lot. The Game 1 strategy not so much, since I'm sort of locked in on what I'm doing, although now I know that I can redirect anything away from the Bronzong if I need to, because Clefable doesn't have anything that touches Bronzong. So with that damage, I think there's a decent chance that if this gets redirected into the Clefable, because I will be faster in the rain, it should be about triple the damage there. I think that kills the Clefable, but I don't necessarily want to risk it, so I do decide to follow up with a Giga Drain to make sure that the Clefable's dead, because if it survives with like a couple HP, I'd be very upset with that. A higher upside move is probably to Sleep Powder into the Blaziken here, and just hope that this goes down, and maybe Sleep Powder hits Clefable if it needs to, but I'm not a huge fan of that play overall. So the Clefable does go down from the Geyser. Have you guys ever noticed how Blaziken stands on like the 3 points of its toes when it's Dynamaxed? I just think that's kind of funny. The Mantine survives that. I can't say it was something I was specifically calcing to survive, but I am quite happy that I do, obviously. I get a Giga Drain off on the on the Blaziken. I recover a little bit of health, that's not going to do a lot. And then we start getting Sandstorm damage to come in. So here I need to think, what is my win? I need to get Trick Room up with the Bronzong in the back, and I need to figure out the best way to do that. And having Tangela next to it is pretty much a guarantee. So with Kangaskhan coming out, I'm pretty sure his play is always fake out into Tangela and finish off the Mantine. So that being said, I think I'd consider a Max Guard here, and I also consider an attack, because if the play is fake out, then I sort of want this Mantine to go down now that the Blaziken's faster than it again. And then I just sort of get a free switch into Bronzong that only takes fake out damage from a Kangaskhan, which, considering its max defense, isn't going to be a huge amount. A better play potentially could have been... No, that was probably the best play. Yeah. Because then the fake out comes. I could have also protected with the Tangela and saved a little bit of damage on the Bronzong, but I'd rather save damage on the Tangela at that point, and I don't want to misread and then lose the Tangela. And then still have the Mantine in, and then have to put Bronzong next to Mantine, because that's that seems much less favorable for me. But here, I'm able to get the Tangela in, and I know neither of these things have goggles, so Bronzong's going to be able to get a Trick Room up. So the Tangela is able to freely switch in next to Bronzong, and I've got Bronzong Tangela, which is the way that I want to start going for Trick Rooms. Tangela can just Rage Powder. It will die to a Tickle, but Blaziken will attack first, and there's nothing Kangaskhan has that's taking down Bronzong from this range. Flare Blitz comes out. Tangela goes down. Kangaskhan gets to launch an attack into Bronzong. And Ice Punch is interesting. Trying to freeze me, if he froze me, I would have been incredibly tilted. But I get the Trick Room up, and I get to bring in Glastrier under Trick Room, which feels very favorable to me. The Blaziken keeps getting faster and faster, which is worse and worse for it now. Life Orb Glastrier under Trick Room just sounds like it's going to deal a lot of damage to a lot of things. So the Glastrier is in. And then I have to decide what is my attack pattern going to look like. High Horsepower into the Blaziken looks decent. He could always switch it out into one of his 2 ground immunities, but then I know what's in the back. And then I'd feel okay with that. And I think Iron Defense here, because he's got 2 physical attackers, I feel okay with that as well. So the Blaziken does protect. I High Horsepower into it, and I'm able to get up a free Iron Defense on the Bronzong, as this Kangaskhan's not going to do a lot to either option here. Drain Punch. Oh, if I was Weakness Policy, that would have been so fun. So Body Press into the Kangaskhan without the boosts does between 60 and 70% to most Kangaskhan's. With my Iron Defense boost, Body Press is a KO on most Kangaskhan's. So then I get a free attack into the Blaziken here. And I assume it's gonna switch into something. Maybe a Ice Move would have been a smarter play here to try and read him. But I feel like at this point I can start playing safely. Because unless this Kangaskhan protects, it's going to have a bit of an issue. So Glastrier High Horsepower obviously doesn't affect the Salamence, and I get the Body Press off. If this is a physical Salamence, then Bronzong has a lot of 3v1 potential, even if Glastrier goes down against this team. So I know he's got Blaziken coming out, and with Blaziken coming out at the health it's at, and I'm at +2 Bronzong, Body Press will kill it, and then I can just launch Ice Moves into the Salamence, and that's sort of the plan. Because even at -1, a 4x super effective stab attack from a Glastrier is gonna kill basically everything. The Blaziken's gonna protect. The Salamence is gonna protect. He's trying to burn Trick Room turns, which makes sense. I still don't know if the Salamence is physical or special. I really hope it's physical, because then Bronzong doesn't even need Glastrier. Blaziken's speed increases, and we're going to try for the Icicle Crash again, and the Body Press. And this should be a double KO on my end, and I'm happy about that decision. But Icicle Crash does miss. Body Press takes out that thing, And then Glastrier survives, which means I get to launch one more Ice-type move, but Trick Room ends. So he's got to attack into the Glastrier because he doesn't know I have Protect, which means I've got able to set up Trick Room again. Because if he tries to deny Trick Room, then Glastrier gets a free attack. And honestly, it's better for him if I set up Trick Room and Glastrier is dead, because he doesn't know if this Bronzong can 1v1. And I've also learned that that is a physical Salamence. He attacks into there. I'm okay with that. I'm able to set up Trick Room. And I should be in a winning position. If Icicle Crash connects, that's a win. And if it doesn't, then Salamence is going to be taking a decent amount of damage from each of these body presses, and it hasn't shown me anything that can do damage to Bronzong. Hypnosis is another option that I have just to try to cover my mathematical bases that I go with, because the odds of both attacks missing are about 6% chance that both attacks miss. Glastrier does go down due to Life Orb. It's the first time it's died this season. We're all sad. It bleeds. But Bronzong stays on the field and couldn't be hurt. So going into Game 2, knowing that he is rocking Goggles Clefable really affects my decision making here. Because with Goggles Clefable, Clefable's not able to deny anything from Bronzong. And then nothing is able to one-shot the Tangela either, because everything on his team is physical except for the Cresselia, which I don't really see coming out in this matchup. So I'm considering the Coco Thievel mode here, but I think stronger is just going to be this Bronzong Tangela mode, because Bronzong Tangela is a free Trick Room. Like, he can't stop it with the team that he brought, and then I can just bring the horses in the back, as Lil Nas X says, and have Glastrier do what Glastrier does, which is, again, a completely busted Pokemon that I really reasonably shouldn't have gotten with the last pick in the first round. It's so good. It single-handedly makes my Trick Room mode as threatening or more threatening than every Trick Room mode in the league, and I don't need to run Trick Room with it. It just gives me the option to. But we'll see what he leads, and it's Clefable Salamence, and I've got a free Trick Room. This Salamence is physical. It can't kill the Tangela. This Clefable can't stop the Bronzong from setting Trick Room. Intimidate doesn't matter. Trick Room's going up here. The only question is, what do I do with it when it is up? Because I just need to click Rage Powder. So, with Trick Room up, I've just got to try to figure out what's the cleanest way to get Glastrier in and max it, because now Glastrier is obviously the max candidate for this game for me. This Salamence reads into the Rage Powder and goes for Dual Wing Beat, which, yeah, that's not a lot of damage to a almost max defense, not quite max defense Tangela with Eviolite. And then Flamethrower into the Bronzong. Yeah, it's heat-proof, and even though it's physically defensive, that's not a lot of damage. Even if it was not heat-proof, that would do less than 50%, and I don't necessarily see that as a viable way to deny Trick Room. So now, we've got options. I can Iron Defense up, but I sort of don't want that Clefable there when I do that. I can Hypnosis into either slot, and try to use that to get the free switch in. Or I can Rage Powder and swap in and let Glastrier eat one Flamethrower, which isn't going to do a lot of damage to it. But just swapping the Tangela out seems like my best option, because it gets the Glastrier in, and then I can try to Hypnosis something. Follow Me is interesting there, because he assumed I was going for Sleep Powder, I guess. And then he Dragon Claws into the Bronzong. And that's yeah, this Bronzong's super tanky here. So now I've got decisions. I can Hypnosis, I can Iron Defense, but the obvious thing is I'm going to max and Steel Spike into this Clefable, because this KOs it unless it protects. And no matter what he's got in the back, it doesn't really want to eat a max Steel Spike, and this gives the Bronzong extra defense, which boosts the power of Body Press, and makes it harder for his team to take down because his team is full of physical attackers. Right, Alexandria is maxed. Everyone loves to see the Pony Winnie. Clefable's going to protect. It'll survive this attack then, but it'll still take a decent chunk. And a double protect. I'm okay with that because I'm Iron Defensing. So Steel Spike. Decent damage. It's now in range that I can probably Hailstorm it next turn for safer attack. And then I get the Iron Defense up, and +3 Bronzong defensively. Yeah, that's going to survive a lot. So here, I Body Press the Salamence, thinking it might switch out, and I Hailstorm. Let's see, what do I end up Hailstorming? I think I end up Hailstorming. Check what he's got in the back. See that Haunter could still potentially survive a Max Quake. And then I end up Hailstorming the Ment slot. So he does end up maxing the Ments here. I'm not sure if I fully agree with that. He is going to be able to redirect stuff and let it get an attack off. But I think he needed to cycle Intimidate with it. I'm not sure exactly what he's hoping to accomplish with it here. Yep, this Clefable is going to follow me. It's going to eat a Hailstorm. And it goes down, and then I'm able to just get off one Body Press, which isn't going to do a lot of damage even at +3 into Max Salamence. But that Chilling Nay boost is going to be very useful. That does okay damage. Like, that's about what I expected. Steel Spike. So he's going for defense boost on the Salamence to match my attack boosts. Which, it's really an interesting tactic on his end, because it absolutely has the potential to work if I never land a Max Hailstorm into him. And I've only got one more turn of Max. So if he Max Guards next turn, then I've got to rely on Icicle Crash hitting, which is weaker. And if he's able to get to +2 by then, and I'm only at +1, he might be able to survive that at max and then deal damage to the Glastrier, but he has to Max Guard the Salamence here. Like, there's very little doubt in my mind, and I know this Haunter has the potential to chunk this Bronzong, which is unfortunate. But I think a Hypnosis is probably the call in case he doesn't max it, because I don't want it to launch another Steel Spike, or in case he doesn't Max Guard it. But I'm going to read it and go for the Hailstorm into the Haunter slot. After the game, Rolo told me he meant to ally switch here, which would have saved the Salamence, and I would have needed to hit the Hypnosis on the Haunter to make it not threaten the Bronzong, because that is one way that he is able to deny Trick Room, is with Hypnosis, and I know Trick Room is ending very soon. So, very interesting play on his part. I still think I covered all my bases by Hypnosising into that slot, but it does make it down to Hypnosis hitting for me to consistently be in the position that I need to be in. So here, Blaziken is out, and Salamence is out. I think, honestly, I want to get up another Trick Room. And then I don't know if protecting here is the right call, or if trying to pick up the KO on one of them is the right call, but I assume it's protecting, because I don't want to just eat a Flare Blitz from a Life Orb Blaziken. And even if the obvious play on his end, given that this is the obvious play on my end, is to go into the Bronzong and try to deny this Trick Room, if he's able to do it, I still get Tangela out next to Glastrier, which eats an attack, and then Glastrier is able to attack back because it will eat the Blaziken's attack, because it will outspeed the Salamence next turn. But I don't think he KOs this Bronzong, like, first of all. And this Flare Blitz from a Life Orb Blaziken into a +3 Heatproof Bronzong, yeah, I just get Trick Room up again. And I feel okay with this position. So here, I just body press the Blaziken and Icicle Crash the Salamence and hope it hits. And I think that should wrap up the game for me. He might have some protecting shenanigans, but I feel comfortable at this point in the game that I'm wrapping it up. That unless I get some really bad RNG, there isn't really a way for him to come back in this game. So with that being said, I go for the pretty standard attacks. I expect the protects here, maybe an attempt to stall. He hopes to get protect, then a miss, then a protect, but I just get the Icicle Crash to hit. So with that being said, the body press won't quite KO this Blaziken, but it will die to its own recoil, but it will take out the Glastrier again. So, good games to Rolo. I had a really fun set this week. You prepped and pretty much played out of your mind as well. Honestly, this was a very hard week for me, and it was well fought on both of our ends, but I had a lot of fun, and I will see you guys next week when I take on Raz and the Detroit Delmise. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you guys around. Bye.